Hi, my name is Lorri Allen, and I'm going to read from Short Stories by Texas Authors, Volume 2. This is Cactus Ann. You've heard of Paul Bunyan and Pecos Bill, but you may have never heard of Cactus Ann. Ann was a farmer and rancher who lived in South Texas. That's where the mesquite trees bloom every spring across land as flat as a pancake griddle, and the grain turns from gold to red every July, where the tomatoes grow as big as your left hand, and the watermelon tastes sweeter than honey. As a Depression baby, Ann was so hungry, she crawled around the caliche roads, picking up bugs to eat. One day, she picked up a cigarette stub and started chewing on it. She liked the taste of tobacco so much, by the time she was 3 years old, she was chain smoking. She was also a good shot. She was such a tomboy that when she was in school, the teachers begged her to quit home economics and take up shop. Cactus Ann ran her own spread of 200 acres down by the King Ranch. You may have heard of the King Ranch. It's the biggest ranch in the world. It bred a horse that once won the Kentucky Derby, and the smart cattlemen who worked there developed the Santa Gertrudis breed. Those animals can resist drought, mosquitoes, snakes, hurricanes, and still taste good when they're barbecued. Cactus Ann didn't like being the underdog to the King Ranch. So short of cattle rustling, she was always trying to outsmart the big boys. And one day, despite her meanness, the big ranch hand in the sky must have been watching out for her. An agent from the ranch, as it's called, came to visit Ann. He said the Kings wanted to expand their territory and would like to know if she'd consider selling a few acres. "Oh, I might," Ann said, although she had no intention of parting with the land her daddy's daddy got from Pancho Villa. "What are the Kings planning?" "Oh, they want to build a hunting lodge, and they think your corner of God's garden would be a perfect spot. And they will, of course, compensate you enough to live in grand style." How much is that?" Cactus Ann was a shrewd negotiator. By the time she was through with that agent, she got him to pay $25,000 to her right then for the option of buying property to her daughter's daughter's daughter. Ann got the last laugh because she never had any daughters, but she put that money to good use. As mean as she could be, you'd never suspect that she could do something nice. But with that money, she built a library for Kingsville. That kind of money went further back then, so Ann also started a literacy program and built an animal shelter for stray dogs. "Cats can fend for themselves," she said, "but sweet old dogs are so helpless and people are so mean, they just let puppies out on the highway. We'll show them." Even though Ann did have an ego and always said she wanted to be remembered when she graduated to the big ranch in the sky, she didn't ask for the library or the shelter to be named after her. She said the Kingsville Library and the Kingsville Dog Shelter were fine names, but she did have a few conditions. No books written by Aggies or about that school in College Station were allowed to be in the library, and no dogs named Reveille could be admitted to the shelter or given that name once they were there. A few Aggies were dumb enough to complain, so Ann asked them where their money was. That shut them up. Even though she cared about books and dogs and guns, Ann could be rude, vicious, and vengeful. She got her nickname because she had a rather prickly personality. You may have wondered why bunny rabbits and deers have little white tails. Well, it was because Cactus Ann was such a good shot that the animals were waving their tails like flags of surrender, asking her to quit shooting their families. One time, some late-night hooligans kept trespassing on Ann's property off Highway 77 near Kingsville, and she got mad because they were throwing beer cans on her pretty farm. Her farm was so pretty that people driving south to the Rio Grande Valley would pull over and just look at it. You could almost hear them say, "That farm is just a farm, but it's so lovely. And out here in the middle of nowhere." Her farm was so pretty that it had won awards from Texas A&M. You know, Ann was not a fan of that place, so she refused to display her plaques. But she did tell everyone that her farm was certified beautiful. In fact, she disdained the Aggies so much that she planted bluebonnet seeds at night every year, so that when her Aggie farmer friends' fields started sprouting, "Bevo rules!" could be read from any crop duster. The Kingsville Record posted a photo every summer of an unsuspecting farmer's field. "You'd think they would learn," the ag extension agent would say. No one ever caught Cactus Ann in the act, but many suspected her because she was one of the few county residents who professed love for the University of Texas. Anyway, Ann was ticked off about the beer cans on her property, so she went down to the general store with her shotgun and told the owner, "I'm going to stay awake tonight and every night, and the next person who steps foot on my spread without permission gets bullets for breakfast." The word got out and no one ever left a beer can on Cactus Ann's farm again. Ann took umbrage if she heard someone say that her spread was in the middle of nowhere. She thought it was paradise. In spite of the summer heat and humidity and the mosquitoes as big as a rat, Cactus Ann loved the constant coastal breeze and the way the mesquite trees twisted and turned and bloomed only when spring had definitely arrived. But her favorite part of South Texas was the sunset. The hard, prickly woman who once strangled an alligator just to get its hide for a pair of boots would sit on her west-facing porch almost every evening to see the new watercolor in the sky. Her eyes would moisten, and she would softly say, "Nowhere but South Texas. Nowhere but South Texas." You may have wondered how the bluebonnets in Texas got to be so blue. Well, you may not know this, but at one time they were yellow. It was a bad year for farmers. Torrential rain and pummeling hail had destroyed the cotton, the maize, the watermelons, and the hay. Cactus Ann vowed to get even with Mother Nature. She challenged the old mother to a contest to see who could spit watermelon seeds the farthest. Well, Mother Nature's no fool. She has all the winds at her disposal. So she took a deep breath and sucked in a little more, and a little more, and a little more, and before you know it, she caused tornadoes from Pensacola to Pampa. She bent back so hard, breathing in so much air, she created the Grand Canyon. She spit so hard in South Texas that she dug the beds for the Rio Grande River. The old-timers still talk about the destruction, and the watermelon seeds that fell over the whole Gulf Coast still bear fruit today. Cactus Ann knew she had to think fast, so she said, "Mother Nature, I was just kidding. I wanted to see if you would stoop beneath your class and do something so unladylike as to spit watermelon seeds. And I see you're not a lady at all. You're just full of hot air." Whew, boy, that really made Mother Nature mad. But she was so out of breath after causing all those tornadoes that she was turning blue in her face trying to yell at Cactus Ann. The blood, sweat, and tears that came from Mother Nature's exasperation fell on the little yellow plants that bloom in the springtime. And ever since, Texas has had a state flower as blue as the deepest ocean. Those flowers are so pretty that it's a rite of passage for all tiny Texans to get their photos taken in a big patch of them. Those flowers are so pretty that all the other states are envious. Cactus Ann is also responsible for the mockingbird, the bobwhite, and once she visited Florida, now it has key limes. And her trip to Ohio resulted in something called buckeyes. She could also take credit for the attractive diamond pattern on a rattlesnake and the smaller size of modern-day mosquitoes. But those are stories for another time. The next time you see a gorgeous Texas sunset or an exquisite field of bluebonnets, think of a feisty lady in South Texas who was simply watching out for the farmers. Cactus Ann would like to be remembered that way.